Great. So yes, so this is what we have done, right? But now, what is the problem and why do I need Orchestrator? So first of all, if you see, right, all these projects, whichever I have made, if I open this project, right, which we made yesterday about, I think, language detection and all of this, whenever I have to run today, I have to open this interface and I have to run it from here. However, when I am building this as a product or when I am building it as an application, right, this is still my development environment. I cannot actually go and every time ask the customer that, okay, go ahead, come to this code and run this. That won't make sense, right? And this also exposes a lot of the internal codings and all. The customer needs something else. There would be some automations which you would like to schedule, right? Run it at daily 3 p.m., run it at daily 6 p.m., run it weekly on Monday, Thursday, Friday. Everything whichever we want to control would be done by UiPath Orchestrator. So at a very high level, let me just quickly go back to my presentation. UiPath has a tool which is called UiPath Orchestrator, which is able to do and manage your complete robotics fleet. Today, we are going to use the web interface, which is available on the web so that you guys don't have to install anything. The good part about Orchestrator is it is also available as a mobile app, which means that you can start, stop, run, do manage all your automation directly from the mobile device. And also it has something which is called an API interface, which is simply like in case you want to run it from any third party applications, let's say Python, Slack, Teams, right? Or you want to connect it to any other application, all of that is still possible with the help of API interfaces, right? So that is Orchestrator. Now, if I just go one step down, so what is Orchestrator? With Orchestrator, you can deploy the projects, manage, monitor, and do all the stuff where you can see everything at one place. And it is available in 12 plus languages apart from English, right? And it is helpful us to do audits, management. So everything, whatever you need to manage your automation, you have this guy, which is Orchestrator, right? From hackathon point of view, this is important for you because you would be needing to connect it to different skills. You would require to schedule the automation. You might require value which are global. So all of that I'm going to do in a step-by-step manner. So at the end, you would have all of this in place, right? With that background, I'll minimize this. I'll go back to my, I can minimize all of this. Okay. And I'll go back to this one, which is the studio web, right? Cloud.uipath.com. First thing first, where exactly is this orchestrator? So you have to go to cloud.uipath.com, right? That is the same account where you have used to log in. And if you see on this left hand side, today you are using this guy, which is Studio, to open that Studio web. On the same place, you have this guy, which is the orchestrator. So you click on that and that will open the orchestrator for you. Okay. So we'll just wait for this to fire up and this is how it looks like. Okay. Meanwhile, people who are looking this, right, in case you guys have access to cloud.uipa.com, you can actually go and check what actually this guy can do. So this is how it might look like. I have a couple of more folders here, but for you, the important thing is this guy, which is my workspace. I am using this email ID, which is mailmukeshkala@gmail.com. That is why this is my workspace. But we can have different folders on the left hand side. Same like I can work for multiple departments, HR, finance, payroll, and I do not want the automation to talk to one another. We can have different folders, right? But for hackathon point of view, we'll stick only to this guy, which is my workspace, which is by default there. Okay. Now, when you go to this, you see a lot of things here, right? It's a completely all different topic, but I'll try to explain this, that how and what are the important features for you which you need to remember. Okay, so you would see here at the tenant level, you would have something which is called my workspace, and into the my workspace you have home, which is same like home, right? Which is the home page. The next thing is automations. Automation simply means all the automations, whichever you have written, you can access all these automations here. I'll try to deploy an automation and I'll show it to you what is here. Then after automation, you have something which is called monitoring. As the name suggests, today I am only having one automation, but in your project or in your company, you can have more than one automation, 100, 200, 300. You can use monitoring to monitor those automation. You have something which is called solutions, right? That what are the solutions which you have deployed. You have something which is called queues, right? People who are coming from programming background, queues is the same concept where you store data and you can make the process scalable. So for example, let's talk about the yesterday solution which we were dealing with 100 emails. Right now, if I process 100 emails one by one, it will take, let's say, 500 minutes. If I assuming that one email processing is 5 minutes, then 100 email is 500 minutes, right? That's a lot of time. With the help of queue, you can divide the workload into different robots. You have something which is called assets, which we are going to do today, and then business rules is in preview, so you can skip for a while. And then the last one is storage bucket. This is a persistent storage. Anything wherever you want to store some data, it can be shared drive, it can be that place, or UiPath has given you one storage centralized location, which is storage bucket. You can keep your data here, and all the different automations, whichever you have made, can access the data from storage buckets, right? With that, let's go to our Studio Web and try to build a small process, and let's try to deploy that. Okay, I'll go back to my Studio Web. This is what we have been using. I'll go here and let's try to create a simple process today, right? I'll go here and I'll say create new, right? That's what we have been doing. Create a new workflow. And this is where you have, let's say, written your hackathon code. I'll say I'm doing it as a manual automation. You see here, you have something which is called schedule automation also, right? By the way. And then let's try to rename it. I'll go to this one, which is the folder. And here you can rename the project. Okay. So I can say it is from the orchestrator underscore session so that we are all able to find out that which is the project. Okay. Now here you have written a huge code connected to AI and all of that, right? Read the email, done all of that. That is your part of implementation. Today, focus is on orchestrator. So I'm just going to add a log message activity, assuming that this is a very huge automation where I have written this. And I just go here and I say that this is automation started, right? And after that, you have read a lot of content, do a Gen AI, write your complete logic, and then you have ended the automation, right? And I say automation ended. Okay. And it is a simple straightforward automation. Now, this automation is completed. Now, I want to run this automation. I want to deploy this automation. How do you deploy it? It's absolutely simple. First thing first, just see which account you are logged in. I am logged in with mailmukeshkala@gmail.com, right? For the same account, you go on the 9 dots and you click on this guy, which is the orchestrator. And as I mentioned, that will take you to the orchestrator, which will look something like this, right? And then from here, when you are done with your development, you are done with your coding, your hackathon solution is ready. It's time for publish. You click on this guy, which is the publish button here. I can click on that and it has taken the name which I have written, and now it is asking me, Mukesh, where do you want to publish? And in the location, you would see that I have all the different feeds which are available, right? So for the hackathon, since you are building Studio Web, the best way is you deploy it on your personal feed so that you don't go into managing of the folders and all, because personal feed is always available in your orchestrator. I leave everything to the default setting and I say publish. Okay, now what has happened here? We have published this guy to my orchestrator. Now, whenever I have to run this today, if I have not published it, I have to come here and I have to every time say test on the cloud and it was running here. When I publish this, if I go back to the orchestrator now, I'll go to the home page. sorry, my bad, to the orchestrator. This is the workspace because I put it on the personal feed, which is my workspace. And now if you see here into the processes, uh, here, sorry, my bad, into the home, into the processes, orchestrator session is by default created for me because I deployed it from there. But let's say because of something it is not deployed here, you can always go here and say add a process, and that you can just select which one you want to deploy. For me, it was this orchestrator session. You can hit next, next, and you can say create, and that will create the automation for you, which will look something like this, which is the orchestrator session, which we just published, right? And it is a cross platform, which means it will run on Windows, it will run on even on your Mac Studio as well. Okay, now this orchestrator is just sitting here. This process is on my orchestrator, it is on my server. And if I just try to open it from my mobile device also, I'll be able to trigger that automation from my mobile device. So I do not need to necessarily sit on the front of the computer. Now, what is good about it? Now, if you see here, if I have to run this today, you see here, you have this guy, which is a small play button, which says start a job. So first thing first is whenever you deploy anything to the orchestrator, you have to create a process out of it. Process is just created a process as the name suggests. Job is the actual work which is happening. So if I go to the job, as of now, you would see that I do not have anything related to that project, the orchestrator project, right, which we just created. So I'll go to the process, and then from the orchestration session, you have this play button here. I can say start a job, right? And then orchestration session, cloud serverless, and I say start. Now you would notice that that command is now sent to the jobs, and this is created a job, and the job is running 0 seconds ago, and after some time the job will be completed and you would be able to see that the job is successful in 6 seconds. Now whatever automation you have done has been completed. To validate that, if I go to these three dots and I say view the logs, right, you would see that the automation was started and the automation ended, which is coming from the code which you have written. So basically, what I am saying is to run the automation, you don't necessarily have to come to here and run it on here. You deploy it on the orchestrator, and now you are in your process and you can trigger an automation from anywhere. How cool is that, right? I can just go here and I can do the same thing, by the way, with my mobile app as well, as already mentioned. Just connect to the same tenant, you would see the same process and just trigger, and it will run on the server and you will get the output, right? I'll take a pause before moving to the next interesting stuff, right? You guys finding it interesting? If yes, just maybe put in the chat yes, so that I understand that yes, this was interesting before I show you more cool stuff about Orchestrator. Awesome. Okay, great. Now, you might ask me a counter question, right? Mukesh, why it is so special, right? It is as good as if I would have gone here, I am clicking on this, and here also you are clicking on this, right? Because you are just clicking and you have changed the interface. Still, I have to manually click it and I am with you on there, right? But with Orchestrator, the power is you can actually schedule the automation, which means that if I go to this guy, which is the triggers, then you see here you have something which is called time trigger. As the name suggests, time trigger, same like setting up an alarm. I can go here and I say add a new trigger. What is the name of the trigger? The name of the trigger is, let's say, I'll just name it as hackathon, right? So that we all can relate to which process you want to trigger. I want to trigger my orchestrator session, which I just created. This is the name of the process, right? Leave everything to the default settings. This is my time zone. I'm located in India. If you are at a different time zone, just select the time zone. What is the frequency? You want to run it at minute, hourly, daily, weekly, first day of the month, and advance. Advance is something like where this frequency, what you want, is not available here. You can click on advance and you can write a cron expression like this, right? But let's stick to simple, where I want to run it, let's say, daily basis, or where I want to run it on weekly basis. Now, what day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, at what time. And that automation will run at that specific time. Think of a use case now, right? You have created a solution for the hackathon, let's say for uh, sending of the attendance report, hypothetically, right? Now, attendance has to be sent on daily basis. Now, you do not want to sit daily 9 a.m. in the morning and trigger the job. I'll deploy, run the automation, come here, set it to daily, and I'll just set what time I want to run it. You have created an automation where you want the emails to read and you want to automatically reply to that emails. Yesterday what I was doing, right? French, German and all of those stuff. But I want to do it, let's say, every 3 hours or every 4 hours. I can do that. I want to run a process of sending, let's say, certificates to the people at the month end or day of the week. All of that you can do here. For this example, let's go by minute. Repeat after, let's see, 2 minutes, right? So that at least it has some time to run. So what I'm saying is I want to run this process every 2 minutes and I just say add. And you see this hackathon kind of alarm is created. It is going to run every 2 minutes, right? And now if I go to the jobs, if you see here, the orchestrator session was last run 4 minutes ago. You can see my hands, which are here, right? We have set up an alarm kind of stuff. Even if I close the orchestrator now, I do not have to sit in front of the machine. The uh, automation or the trigger will automatically happen because I have set it to every 2 minutes. And what will happen? It will come here and it will make an entry and it will run the process every 2 minutes, right? So we just have to wait. And by the way, we can see here into the triggers that this is created and it is going to run in next 1 minute around 5:34 13 seconds, right? So we'll just wait in the jobs, and in the jobs, you would see one entry getting added for orchestrator session. As of now, the previous one was personal because I clicked it. But this time when it run, if you see the time, it is 5 minutes ago, right? Again, you don't have to trust me, trust your own eyes, right? Because I can say anything, right? So I'll just wait here and let's see what is happening with my trigger in 48 seconds, right? So guys, we'll just wait for 48 seconds. In 48 seconds, the expectation is it will run and it will create an entry. It will automatically run. So as of now, I have just added 2 log messages. So it is doing that, but you can imagine to your automation where you are running it on daily basis. You can have an automation that is going to Google, scraping the information, sending an email to you every day in the morning. You are wishing your friends happy birthday, happy new year exactly on first of let's say 1st January, exactly 12 p.m. You are just saying that okay, happy birthday, by just scheduling an automation, right? Can think of a lot of use cases, right? And it is here. Let's go to triggers in 4 seconds. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you see here, right? Orchestrator session is pending and state is pending because it is taking the robot and it had to just refresh, right? So what will happen? It will automatically go start the session and you see here that it is running. Sometime it will start the execution and then you should be able to see that running, right? I didn't have to do much. How cool is that, right? I'll take a pause. You guys find this feature interesting? Yes or no? You like this feature of recording? Yes. So let me show you one more interesting stuff, right? By the way, when a job is working or if it's stuck for some reason, right, you have an option to stop it as well, like this. Or you can always kill the job as well. So you have an option here. So let's say something is stuck, right? As this was not working because of some reason, maybe XYZ, I can just stop this automation and you can always do all of that, right? So that was your triggers. But this was a time trigger. Now what would happen? It will execute every 2 seconds. You always has an option to disable it, right? Which means that I have disabled the trigger, but I have not deleted it. You have an option here to enable it, jobs, remove, right? Self-explanatory thing. So not going in details, right? There is an interesting stuff, guys, which is called a queue trigger. Now, sometimes there are some processes, right? which you want to run based on some events which is happening, and that's where you have this event trigger and the queue trigger as well. Both of them works on the same concept, right? Event trigger is something like, I want to run my automation as soon as I receive the email. Now, what is the drawback with time trigger? The drawback with time trigger is that you have to wait. If I have set it up, let's say every 15 minutes, right? I have as a user, I have to wait for 15 minutes for that thing to come up. However, there are use cases, or there would be a lot of business use case or scenario in your mind, right? Where you would like that, okay, if my customer has sent me an email at 9 a.m., I want to immediately trigger an automation. For that, previously developer used to do some kind of these stuff, right? Run every 2 minutes, every 2 minutes, and lot of utilization wastage, right? Because a robot is sitting idle just monitoring something. However, with this latest advancement, we have got something which is called event trigger. What is event trigger? As soon as a event is happening, go ahead and create a trigger. Now, what exactly is event trigger and where do they happen? Event trigger is part of your integration services, which is also, by the way, free for you. You guys already have used integration services, but you didn't realize. Let me show it to you quickly as well. If you go to these 9 dots, right, you would see here into the more, you have, okay, integration service, which is here, right? And whenever we are connecting it to Google, right? Yesterday, as I connected to Google, I connected to OpenAI. You would see here into the connections. These are all the connections which I made yesterday, right? Tutorials by Mukesh Kala, right? All these things which we have made, right? So I think today is 12th April. So we made all of this into 9th April and all. Now, these are all the connections which I have made. I have also connected it to Watson X, which is kind of a chat bot. I have connected it to Google Sheets, right? All of this I have done. Now, integrations also service allow you to have triggers. So if I go to the triggers, I can say add a trigger, right? What is the connector? So for example, my connector is Gmail. It's all very easy, right? You just have to configure it. So this is my account, the same account which I have used. What is the event? The event for me is email received. As soon as the email is received, you can add a condition, you can add something. What do you want to do? Select an automation. Which automation you want to run? My automation is Orchestrator. Orchestrator session, which is in this, right? Orchestration session in this, and then I can run it in cloud serverless, and then I say add a trigger, and that's it. Now what would happen? Anytime there is an email which is received on this mailbox, it is going to trigger that automation. And now if I go back here, I should see the event trigger here in some time, because it takes some time to reflect it back. So what would happen now? Anytime you send an email to this ID, which is tutorials by Mukesh Kala @ gmail.com, this is received. I have not put any filter, but you can think of like adding a filter where the sender is this, the attachment is true, all on your implementation. It will automatically go and create the things for you, and you can monitor the things here. And that thing is nothing but called the event triggers, right? So it will take some time, 5-6 minutes to reflect. We can come back and then we can see. And then you have something which is called API triggers, application programming interface. You can also trigger automation via APIs, right? If you want to learn more about integration services, guys, you can again go back to the channel which I showed yesterday, which is my YouTube. There I have a complete playlist on all this stuff. So you will find those details, right? But the idea here is you can have event triggers. Based on events, you can trigger processes, you can schedule the processes, and there is something which is called queue based triggers, right? So queue is a collection of items which you are processing with the automation, right? So whenever there is a new item which is added to the queue, you can also trigger queue based automation, right? So all of that are possibilities for you. And the good part about Orchestrator is, in this automation tab, we talked about process, jobs, triggers. you have something which is called my packages, which is like everything which you have deployed would be available here. Same like the orchestration session, which I have deployed 15 minutes ago. It's available here into the my packages. You can add, remove, delete everything from here. And then you have something which is called logs, which is like what is your automation doing. So your session started, your session ended, right? Whatever you are doing, this is kind of logs. You can export this and you can see what is happening with your automations. And then you have something which is called monitoring, where you can monitor the robots, what is running, what is pending, what is stopped, right? All of these things are available for you, which is in your my workspace into the automations. But for your hackathon, you would be more interested into the processes, jobs, triggers, maybe the event triggers or the time triggers, where you have scheduled your automation to do something based on the timely basis, right? Before I jump to the next topic, which is the assets, right? If you guys love the concept of triggers, right, and you are interested to explore it more, we'll send you the courses link and all, right? You can refer it. Just comment triggers, right? So that I understand that yes, you find this feature interesting. Okay, I can see a lot of triggers. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for commenting, right? Now, let me show you event triggers added or not, because event trigger is added or not. Let me quickly check that why it is not added. Add a trigger, mail mukeshkala@gmail.com. Ideally, it should have been added, but I think when I send an email, then it should be added. But let's try to do one thing, right? Meanwhile, we are doing this session. Let me just pull a Gmail and I'll send one email to my Gmail and it should automatically trigger that, right? So that would be a good test for the thing, right? Let me immediately do that. Okay. So this is my yesterday's email, right? What we have sent. So can just say that this is a sample email, right? Integration service takes some time because this is again an API call, right? I'll just send this sample email, right? And hopefully it should have triggered the automation into the background, right? We'll come after some time and we'll see that. Okay. Connector is Gmail. Okay, guys, this is the mail mukeshkala@gmail.com and the trigger name is okay. See, that's the problem, right? This is my wrong account which I have created. That's why. Okay, let me show it to you. So here it is, right? This is the Gmail tutorials by Mukesh Kala. You can click on these three dots. You can say manage the triggers, right? And here I can say add a trigger, which is this one. Hmm. Okay, so basically I am using two different accounts. That's why it is creating a problem, but it will trigger in few seconds, right? I'll come back to you on that. After that, there is one important concept of which is called assets in Orchestrator, right? So if you would have noticed into your Orchestrator, I'll go back to my Orchestrator. Into the My Workspace, you have something which is called tick, 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 into the automations, triggers, packages, jobs, you have something which is called assets, right? Now, what is an asset? Asset is something, a value, which is like fixed for a lot of the processes or a value which is can change in future. Let's take an example. I want to have some input to this automation, right? It can be a path, it can be, let's say, a number. Let's take about simple thing like name, right? So when I was running my automation into my log message activity, right, I wanted to print my name. So my name is Mukesh, right? You can think it of any input, which it can be any path, it can be any email account, the path of the Google Drive, the sheet name which you want to read, the folder, right? Anything which can change, right? So for example, this is the name. If I just save this and if I publish this automation, I made some changes, right? And I'll print Mukesh, and then this is automation ended, right? So this is, I'm going to teach you two things, that when you update it, the things are not automatically getting reflected in the orchestrator. You have to republish it. So I'll publish it again. The version is 1.0.1 and I say publish, right? Now the new version would be published to the orchestrator, and into the orchestrator, into the automations, you would see here, this is the orchestrator session. You can go here and say edit, right? And you have all the versions here. So just now I updated it to 1.0.1, which is here. In case you want to go back, you can just go back to the 1.0 and you can roll back. But in case you want to stick to the latest, you can latest and say update, right? So you always has an option to change this, right? But now if I just go here to the orchestration session and I run it, you would see what would happen. It would just print, instead of this, it will just say Mukesh, and it will say automation ended, right? But when I am running this automation for my customer, let me just show it to you as well. View the logs, right? You see Mukesh and automation ended. But when I'm giving it to you, right? Let's say Manoj or Ravi, right? I just see the chat, uh, or Sayed, right? So now you guys want to put your name. Now every time I do not want to go to the automation, make a change, come back. It's a lot of efforts, right? That's where assets come in picture. I'll go to this place, and now introducing you to assets. Assets are something where you can store a lot of value. When I say lot of value, there are some types. If I click on this blue button which says add an asset, create a new asset, we can have asset of text. Boolean means a value which is true false, integer like number, credential is username and password. So anytime you want to store username and password, you do not want to say share the password, right? So you can create and store it in orchestrator, which is like AES 256 encrypted. So it's safe with you, right? Let's talk about text. So I my automation is having input which is like name, and which might differ for different conditions. So I say name, I provide a description, that name of the person. Okay. And I'll just say name of the person, right? Now, what is the text you want to provide? So for me, the text today is, let's say I'll just put Bharat, right, from the chat. And I just say create. I've created an asset. The name of the person is Bharat here, right? Now I go to my project. Into the project, as of now, this value is hard coded, which means that every time I have to change. But now I have created an asset. I can click on this plus button and I can say asset, ASSET, asset. And you have something which is called get the asset. I'll double click on it. What is the folder? The folder is my personal workspace. And then what is the asset name? The asset name is the name, right? Which I just created. Now, whatever name I have in that asset, I want to print it into the log message activity. From the get asset, get me the value. And then I can remove the Mukesh. And that's it, right? Now my automation is getting the value directly from the asset, and I have made some changes. So I'll publish it again. So the new version is 1.0.2. I'll publish it, right? Because I have made some code changes. Make sure that you publish it, right? I'll go back to my automation, into the my workspace, automations, and the orchestration session is at 1.0.2. Now, if I go here and I run this guy, or if I run it from the schedule, what will happen? Let's see. Right, this is the new one which is running, and it should logs. It has got the value of Bharat, right? Now, I want to run it for a different value. I do not have to change the automation. Just go to the assets, and here the name, I can just go and say edit, right? And I'll just take one name from the chat. Let's say Kanzul, and I just updated it here into the value, and I say update, and this value is updated. Now the automations which is using that asset will get automatically reflect. I can just again run it and start, right? And it's going to take the latest value. Good part about the asset is one asset can be used by multiple different processes, right? So let's say I have 10 processes, all of that can use the same asset. And now if you see here 13 seconds ago, this is done. If I go and I say view the logs, this is the new value, right? Take a pause. You like this feature? Just maybe let me know in the chat by typing asset. And you understood this feature? Do you think it is useful? Just let me know in the chat by typing asset, right? Before I go to the next interesting stuff. Okay, great. Assets. Lot of guys are putting asset. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for that. And now let me show you what the other stuff, right? In asset, add asset, create new asset. You can have an asset of type Boolean, which is like true false, right? So true false is something like a value which is true or which is false. There is a piece of code into your automation which sometimes you want to run and which sometimes you do not want to run. So for example, there is a feature where you have to send a report at the end of the automation. Now, sometimes your customer says that no, Manoj, I want to send it. And sometimes they say that no, I don't want to send it. What you can do is you can have a Boolean asset, set it value to true, false, and into your code, you can just say get asset and then use a if condition. If that asset value is true, then you do this code. If that asset value is false, then you do this code. It can be as simple as that you have two different functionalities which you have written in one automation, and you are controlling your automation directly from this asset value. That if, let's say, I'll just call it flag, right? So that we understand. If that flag is true, run this part. If that flag is false, run this part. All I have to do is just get the asset, take it, run it, and then come out and do the processing. That's the Boolean one, right? You can also have something which is called integer, which is like setting up the threshold, setting up the numbers, right? How many emails you want to process, for example. So let's say you started with the hackathon solution and you say that, okay, run it. My Gmail has 10,000 emails. Are you going to wait for the 10,000 emails? No, I'll just go and say that 5. It will only process 5 emails. Read this asset into your studio and it is going to process only 5 emails. Process only 2 emails, process only 1 email. On the day of the demo, I just say process only 2 emails. To be fast, right? You can think it of a threshold number, a banking use case where you say that today I want to set the threshold to, let's say, $10,000. Set it to 10,000, right? You said change the withdrawal limit to 500. All of that you can control here. Your automation will just take it from here, right? Last one, credential. Important one. You are doing some automation which requires login. Let's take LinkedIn, right? You are trying to do something with LinkedIn or Twitter. But now if I ask you that, guys, share me your password, you will not share me your password, right? UiPath has this guy which is called credential, right? And I have automatically put my password. Let's say I'll show you interesting one, right? See, Acme is a type of credential store, right? So this is my password for my Acme portal. I created it. If I go here, I say edit. This is my username. See, even I created it. I also cannot see my password. All I can do is into my orchestrator, into this, I can say credential, which is like get credential, and then which credential you want to read. I want to read it from this one. See, I only have one credential, which is the password, and it will give me the username and password into the variables. Now, wherever I want to use, I'll just use this guy username and password. Let's say I want to use it here. Hypothetically, I'm saying, so let's say in the log message, I want to print the username. I'll just say from the get credential, use the username. Wherever you want to type the password, I'll just say type the password, right? Without sharing my password or anything. This is also helpful when you have created your automation for your personal credential. Now, when you are sending it to the customer, you just tell the customer, right, guys, go to the orchestrator, put your password and click on update. So as a developer, you can put your passwords and the secret stuff here without sharing it to anyone, right? So that's the asset for you into your my workspace, right? And with that, I'll take a pause and let me quickly see if we have something on the triggers. Meanwhile, guys, if you have any questions, right, put it on the chat. I am almost done with my sessions. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, here it is, guys. See, so we created a trigger, right? Today is 12/4, right? It is running. It has created all this because we are running the trigger continuously. It is running the trigger attempt equal to 1. It is continuously checking for that thing to happen, right? And you see integration trigger, right? So when you run the process from manually by clicking on that, you will see that's manual. When it is triggered from that, you would see integration trigger. And you would also see is when you run it from studio web, you would have studio web, right? So, and this is checking, right? What is the time now? It's 5:47, 17:57, right? Which is like 5. So these are all the triggers. And then you can go here, say view the job logs, and you would see that all the jobs which it would have triggered from that, see, 6 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, 9 minutes ago, it has been triggering that automation, right? So I'll just quickly disable this, otherwise it will keep on monitoring my mailbox. Okay, can you give a quick recap on the assets? Yeah, sure. So assets are available into your my workspace, into here assets, which allow you to store the value which you feel might change into the future, or if you want to make it configurable. So for example, as of now, the name in my automation is Kenzel, right? So when I run the automation, it is showing me this name. But tomorrow, while doing the demo or the automation, I want to change it. I do not have to touch my code. See, I'm doing a lot of things in the code. I can just go here and edit this name here to something like Ragul, let's say, right? Your name. And I update this. I didn't touch the code. I just updated an asset. This asset I am using into my code, and all I have to do is just rerun the process. And what would happen, it will now run from your name, which is the latest value. So basically you are not hard coding anything, you are just using orchestrator to manage, right? And now if I run this, it is going to show me that directly where this value is coming from, right? And it's absolutely simple, right? Just do here, go to the changes depending on your requirement. And now if I go here, say view the logs, here it is. So I don't have to do anything. You can store numbers, you can store passwords, all of that you can do, right? And the other good part here is you just have to publish it here. And as I mentioned, you can put it as triggers, right? I think most of you would be interested to put it as a trigger, right? That you are running the automation at the end of the day, early morning, twice a day, thrice a day, or based on some events by using the event triggers, right? There are other advanced ones like API triggers and all. You can explore that, but I think for the hackathon, you would be more interested in using the time triggers and the event triggers, right? Create an automation, deploy it to orchestrator, run it from the orchestrator, run it from the mobile device. Don't want to do it manually, schedule it. Don't want to schedule it, run it based on some events, right? So that is it. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions if you guys have. And over to the moderators, Kancham, Vidya.
Hi, guys. Any question? Please shoot now.
Okay, I can stop the sharing. Okay, I hope this was helpful.
Okay. As we wrap up today's session, let's take a moment to look forward. This session was designed to give you all confidence and skill to participate in UiPath Agent Hack India Student Edition, a national level hackathon. You can submit your ideas using the link that is on the screen. Take a moment to take a picture, or you can go ahead and write it down. To know more about the hackathon and to register for the upcoming upskilling session, please visit our website. I hope you have taken the pictures. Before we sign off, we want to quickly talk to you about the opportunity to become UiPath Student Developer Champion, the program that empowers the student to be an automation leader on campus. Okay, I see a question there. Mukesh, on to you.
Which one? Sorry.
1 second.
Can you give a quick recap on assets? I think we have already given that. Can you brief about Q triggers? That one?
Yeah.
Okay, so Q trigger is like whenever you use UiPath, right? So for example, you have an Excel, right? Let's take an example. In that Excel, you have 500 email ID where you want to send emails, right? 500 email ID. Now, if you run a process on that, what would happen? The robot is going to take 500 minutes to do that. So for that, what we do is we add those 500 items to the queue. Now what happens with the data added to the queue? You have an option to run that 500 items into multiple different robots, like 10 robots, 15 robots. But since you guys are using community edition, you only have one robot, so you won't be able to use the queue based mechanism. But what you can do is you can always has an item where whenever there is a new email, new transaction which is happening, you can add an item to the queue, and as soon as an item added to the queue, you can trigger a process. However, you have the more powerful one than that, which is the event based triggers, which does the more interesting job because the kind of automation you are making, right? But if you want to utilize queue trigger, you just have to create a queue, add items to that, and whenever there is a new item added to the queue, it will trigger the process, same like we did for the event triggers, right? So both of them behave in the same way depending on the use case you want to use. Okay. Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. 1 second, Mukesh.
Yeah.
Guys, can you see the PPT? Okay.
Yes, Sudha, we can see the PPT.
Before we sign off, we want to quickly talk to you about the opportunity to become the UiPath Student Developer Champion, the program that empowers students to automation leaders on campus. So who all can apply for the Student Champion program? If your college doesn't already have a champion, here is your chance to apply. We are accepting applications year around. Champions serve as for a year and are onboarded every 4 months. It's it's a chance to gain recognition, inspire your peers, and grow as a leader. You can go ahead and apply on the link shown in the screen. Okay, guys, any questions before we end the session? Okay. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great weekend and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.